San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Cincinnati Reds in the first game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup for the Reds, left-hander Nick Lodolo, and for the Padres, right-hander Matt Waldron. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you here at the Loft inside the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 6:40 as the Padres go for a win in the first game of this three-game set. Here's what you'll hear in the next 50 minutes. We'll check in with Bob Scanlon coming up in just a few minutes. We'll also hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, and we'll also check in with Jurickson Profar, tonight's leadoff man, and the guy behind the plate here tonight catching Matt Waldron. That's Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971, with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres enter today with a record of 14-17. Padres just 3-8 in their last 11 games. Now 4 consecutive losses going back to Thursday in Colorado. It was not a good weekend against the Phillies. Padres were outscored 22-10 in the 3-game series. And in this 4-game losing skid, Padres starting pitching has allowed 22 earned runs and 9 home runs in 17-plus innings. Meanwhile, the Reds are 15-13 to begin the season. Reds coming off a series against the Rangers in Texas. They lost 2-3 over the weekend. Reds have now lost 3 of their last 4 games. Reds are headlined by Elly De La Cruz. The exciting 22-year-old has a .968 OPS, 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, and a major league leading 18 stolen bases in the Reds' first 28 games of the season. So that's how things are set up as we begin this 3-game series between the Padres and the Reds. Before we turn our full attention to today's game, let's take a quick look back at what went down here at Petco Park yesterday.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Padres were down 2-0 in the third inning. There were 2 outs and nobody on, but then Philly starter Taijuan Walker issued a 2-out walk to Jurickson Profar. Fernando Tatis Jr. was next.
2-1 pitch. Tatis sends it in the air to deep left center field. Rojas going back into the gap. He's looking up. It'll hit off against the wall. Profar rounding third, being waved. There will not be a relay to the plate. An RBI double for Fernando, and the Padres on the board here in the third. It's 2-1.
On the very next pitch, Jake Cronenworth did this.
First pitch swinging. Jake Cronenworth, a no-doubter to right field. And the Padres, just like that, take the lead. 2-run home run, and it's 3-2.
But the Padres' lead was very short-lived. Michael King issued a 2-out walk to Nick Castellanos in the top of the 4th inning. Then it was Bryson Stott who struck again.
Here's the pitch, and that is skied to right field. Fernando going back. He is on the warning track, at the wall, looking up, gonna go. Second 2-run homer of the day for Bryson Stott. And this thing seesaws back the other direction. Phillies back in front. It's 4-3.
Michael King went 5 1/3 innings in his start, allowed a trio of 2-run home runs. Fast forward to the 7th inning, Padres down 7-3 at this point. Walker back on the mound for the Phillies. Ha-Sung Kim drew a 1-out walk. Graham Pauley then reached on an infield single with the Padres in need of a big swing. Mike Shildt then pinch hit for Kyle Higashioka with Luis Campusano.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. Campusano swings, hits it in the air to deep left field. Marsh is back at the wall, looking up, gonna go! 3-run pinch hit homer, Luis Campusano. And we got ourselves a 1-run game here in the 7th inning.
Jurickson Profar followed that with a double to put the tying run in scoring position with just 1 out, but the Padres couldn't get Profar home. Padres would never tie it, didn't score in the 8th or the 9th. Final score yesterday as the Phillies earned a 3-game sweep against the Padres. The Phillies 8 and the Padres 6. And that's what happened yesterday here at Petco Park. Now the Padres trying to bounce back in the opener of this 3-game series against Cincinnati. Let's check in with Bob Scanlon.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Bob Scanlon in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
We go down the way here at Petco Park. We're joined by Bob Scanlon, joining Jesse Ackler on tonight's radio broadcast. Tony Gwynn Jr. on the TV side of things tonight, and Scan, as always, appreciate the time. Let's talk a lot of pitching here today, Scan. Obviously was a bit of a rough series for the Padres in the starting pitching department against the Phillies. What did you see from the starters in that series, and what needs to improve here moving forward?
You know, really, I don't want to overanalyze what was going on with the starting pitching. You ran into a team, I think, that was swinging some pretty hot bats. I'm not saying that the Padres starting pitchers didn't make some mistakes in the zone. It just felt like anytime they did make a mistake, the Phillies made them pay for it with the long ball. So, you know, that's one of those unfortunate things. And, you know, on the other side, the flip side, the pitching that the Phillies had, those first two games especially, was absolutely surgical. I mean, I'm trying to think back of when the last time I saw two starting pitchers go back-to-back the way that Nola and Suarez did and carve up the zone and live on the corners the way they did. It was really impressive to watch. So, yeah, I don't think it was that the first two starters for the Padres threw the ball horribly. Obviously, you know, some mistakes were made, and the Phillies were able to get to them. You know, it's sometimes that happens. Sometimes that's the game of baseball, and on the other side it was tough to score against those two starters that Philly threw out there.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. That Phillies lineup, really, really good. They showed what they can do over the weekend, and that's a Phillies team really top to bottom that's playing really, really well right now. On the mound for the Padres today, Scan, right-hander Matt Waldron coming off a really impressive outing against the Rockies his last time out. 6 innings, 1 run given up at the elevation in Denver. What are the keys for Matt Waldron here tonight against a Reds lineup that can also do some damage?
You know, it's the same key that it always is for Matt Waldron. It's always fun talking to him between his starts because sometimes there will be a specific thing that he's working on. For example, heading into that Colorado game that you mentioned, his thing was conviction to making first pitch strikes and to working ahead in the count because he felt like he didn't do that very well in the Toronto game where he only lasted 4 2/3 innings. So that was definitely the focus on that side of it. But, you know, we talk about the knuckleball so much, and I'll ask him, you know, anything you're working on with that, and he kind of smiles because there's not a whole lot that he can work on with it other than continue to throw it, and the more he throws it, the more comfortable he gets with it. And even that last outing in Colorado, he and I were kind of, you know, chuckling about how all of a sudden it was moving in different directions. It was moving more east and west in his last outing than it was moving north and south, which it normally does. So he doesn't even know sometimes from day to day. As long as it's dancing one way or another, whether it be north and south or east and west, he's going to be happy with it. But yeah, it's just fun to watch this young man continue to develop, continue to gain confidence in that knuckleball and knowing that it's there. And to put together an outing, like you mentioned, in Colorado, in those conditions, to go 6 innings, allow only 1 run, and that was huge for the team and saving the bullpen. And at the same time, for his confidence, I think that's got to be a huge lifter as well.
Yeah, we'll see how Matt Waldron does tonight against the Reds. On the other side of this pitching matchup, left-hander Nick Lodolo, a young left-hander on the mound tonight for Cincinnati. Scan, before I let you go, obviously the bullpen has been pretty good still here, even in this 4-game skid. There was the 8th inning on Thursday in Colorado, but even around that, they continue to, for the most part, to get the job done. I want to ask you about one guy, Robert Suarez, who continues to be so good in that closer's role. He had that run for a while where he was throwing nearly exclusively four-seam fastballs. Just your thoughts on Robert Suarez and his season so far.
Impressive. Yeah. And credit to him because he did some things to actually improve the life and late carry and rise on his four-seam fastball, and we're seeing how that plays out, where he goes out there for 4 outings and throws, 60 consecutive four-seam fastballs or something ridiculous like that, and nobody was able to barrel it up. That's how good that pitch has become for him. He's always had great mechanics. It's great to see him healthy. It's great to see him gain confidence in that role because he had opportunities to close previously. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't, but you can tell that this year he knows he's the guy. He's taking command of that position. He's shutting the door down, he's slamming it closed, and he's doing it because he worked on some things to make himself even tougher and better out there, and he's having confidence in himself. So it's been fun to watch, both from just a development standpoint of watching a guy continue to grow personally and also him locking down the back end of that pen, because that's super important, as you know, Sam, to have that guy in the closer's role that helps set everybody up and helps Mike Schilt to know, okay, here are the weapons that I have to bridge the gap to get to Robert Suarez, because he is my guy, and he can be shut down even against the best parts of opposing lineups.
Yeah, Suarez has certainly been really good. Scan, I said last question, I want to squeeze one more thing in.
Sure.
The lineup today for the Padres, Jurickson Profar in left field leading off again, Xander back in the 5 spot, Ha-Seong Kim batting 6th. What do you like about Profar in particular in that leadoff spot, considering how good he's been so far this year?
What's not to like? I mean, the guy's having the best start of his career in the month of April, and he's been doing it from both sides of the plate. Sam, I was breaking it down the other day, just trying to look at, okay, what's different about Jurickson Profar this year? I mean, the obvious stuff of, well, he's hitting from both the left side and the right side, but more importantly, he is not missing fastballs this year. He's hitting, coming into yesterday's game, 367 on the fastball. That's the highest average that he's ever had on that. The other thing that he's doing that seems to be working for him, Sam, is he's more aggressive in the zone. He's swinging at more pitches in the strike zone, not being quite as patient, and he's chasing out of the zone less. So you put that combination together, he's not expanding the zone, and when he does get something in the zone, he's getting after it more than he ever has before. It's great to see that aggressiveness, and it's paying off for him. So he's getting on base, and when you look at all the Padre wins, there's nobody that's been more at the center of every Padre win than Jurickson Profar. Whether you look at RBIs, runs scored, batting average, OPS, whatever you want to look at, Jurickson Profar has been the straw that's been stirring that drink. It's great to see him at the top of the lineup, and hopefully he can keep things going up there.
And we'll see if Jurickson Profar can spark this Padres offense here tonight in this series opener against the Reds. Scan, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 6:30. Thanks so much.
Great to talk with you, Sam.
All right, that is Bob Scanlon joining us from inside the Padres radio booth here at Petco Park as the Padres get ready to take on the Cincinnati Reds at 6:40. We'll go out to Jesse and Scan once again at 6:30. They'll have the full starting lineups and much, much more to come. Again, our starting pitching matchup here tonight. Matt Waldron on the mound for the Padres. Left-hander Nick Lodolo on the mound for the Reds. And as we get ready for first pitch, a lot to do between now and 6:40. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Schilt. Plus, a little bit later, we hear from Jurickson Profar and Kyle Higashioka, our keys to the game, and much, much more to come. First pitch coming up at 6:40 here in downtown San Diego. I'm Sam Levitt on the Padres Radio Network.
You're listening to the
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. Plenty of people here already enjoying their beers. I've got a guy in front of me eating some French fries. I've got another guy in front of me eating what looks like a burger. Actually, you know what it is? It's a Gaglione Brothers Philly cheesesteak. How is that cheesesteak? Is that good? Looks good. All right. The fries are good? Okay, cool. Everybody having a good time here inside the loft. I got a thumbs up for the beer as well. So everybody enjoying themselves on what is a gorgeous Monday night here in downtown San Diego, opener of this three-game series between the Padres and the Reds. Really not a cloud in the sky here tonight. We'll see if the Padres can finally snap this four-game losing skid. As we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Mike Shildt spoke with the media, as always, before today's game. And before we hear from Mike, just a quick look at the Padres lineup as we set the scene for tonight's game. Jurickson Profar back in the leadoff spot playing left field. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right batting second. Jake Cronenworth at first base batting third. Manny Machado, the third baseman, batting cleanup. Xander Bogaerts back in the 5 spot today playing second base. Ha-Sung Kim at shortstop batting 6th. Eggy Rosario, the DH, batting 7th. Jose Azocar in center field batting 8th. And Kyle Higashioka catching Matt Waldron today, batting 9th. And just the day off for Jackson Merrill, not in the lineup here today. We'll see if Merrill comes off the bench at some point in this one. But just the day off for Jackson against the lefty Nick Lodolo on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds. Here was Mike Shildt earlier today with Mary Lou's Cook of Padres TV.
Jake Cronenworth coming off of a tough season offensively last year, but this year it looks like good signs of him getting his swing back. What have you liked about his approach so far this season?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Jake for not only having the success he's had this year, offensively and defensively, but also having the awareness of looking up after last year and looking at himself and recognizing, okay, what needs to change, and then figuring out what the solution is and then going to execute it. So really impressive. He's in a really good place.
Reds lead the league in stolen bases. When it comes to Elly De La Cruz, what stands out about him, and how important is it going to be to limit him at the plate?
Yeah, we need to make sure he stays off the bases. I mean, this guy is a special athlete, clearly. Has a combination of speed, power that is pretty impressive, and clearly does a nice job on the bases. So, keep him off the base is going to be important, and then keeping him close, give yourself a chance, because he's going to run.
Fernando, another great defensive play from him last night. What is it like? Just how special is it to see what he's able to do night in, night out?
I got to change my seat in the dugout, or where I stand in the dugout, because I watched it play I just got through watching it again. I just love athleticism and great plays, and he's clearly on his way to another platinum gold glove. But where I stand, I look over and there's Espo and Leap right there, and I've got two great coaches who I love that I get to look at and talk with and manage the game with. But I can't see one of the most exciting players in the game in right field unless I run out in the field and start watching. So I've got to readjust where I look from. But what a special talent, and we talked about in our coaching meeting today about we're always reflecting on what we're doing well, what we need to improve upon, and looking at last series, like, wow, we hit the cutoff man there, we redirected, got it out of second base, we, Pro went over and cut the ball off early, held him to not scoring in the first, and all those little things. We played as clean as you could play defensively, and then we got to Toddy's play, and it was like, yeah, there's nothing fundamental about it. That's just an athlete making a play. So it's really fun.
And is there an update on Yu Darvish?
Yes, we'll announce our starter after the game tonight, and Yu's in a good place.
That was Mike Schultz with Mary Lou's Cook of Padres TV before today's game. Right now, the Padres are TBA as far as their starter for tomorrow. But again, as we've said over the course of the last few days, Yu Darvish is eligible to come off the IL tomorrow through a bullpen over the weekend. All the reports have been good from that, and we should find out, like Mike Schultz said, who's starting tomorrow's game, and I suppose we'll find out if that is Yu Darvish or somebody else. So we'll give you the update on the post-game show when we know who is starting tomorrow's game for the Padres. You look at the Padres lineup here tonight. Luis Campusano not in it. Kyle Higashioka catching Matt Waldron once again here tonight. Remember, Luis Campusano hit the pinch hit 3-run home run for the Padres yesterday, and just as of late, I'll get into some of the numbers here in a second, but as of late, Campusano's been hitting the ball really well. So here was Mike Schultz. Earlier today, he was asked about how tough it was to leave Luis Campusano out of the lineup and if there was consideration tonight to put him at DH. All right, we'll get to that Mike Schultz audio in just a second. Little bit of technical difficulties, so just bear with us for a moment here, and we'll hear about Luis Campusano. Again, this is the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 6:40 between the Padres and the Cincinnati Reds. Padres come in at 14-17, Reds at 15-13. All right, I think we got the audio ready now. Technical difficulties hopefully shored up. Again, here was Mike Schultz on how tough it was to leave Luis Campusano out of the lineup tonight, and if there was any consideration to putting him at DH.
It was a thought, and Rosie had a big homer the other day too, and it swung the bat well. It creates a little more flexibility for our lineup for matchups. So we can obviously come off the bench and have Graham or Wadey hit if they go to the righty later. So it creates a little more flexibility in that regard, because if you do that with Campy, you lose the DH, and it also creates some flexibility for Campy to come in later like he did yesterday.
2 days in a row in the field for Manny is a good sign. Be able to do that back-to-back. Is that sooner than you thought?
Maybe a hair sooner. It's clearly a great sign. We didn't have it in pencil, or a pen rather, had it in pencil, but him being able to go do it, the turnaround of a day game to a night game, how he felt yesterday, he's like, yeah, let's ride, let's do it. So a lot of positivity to it.
You answered a little bit yesterday, but what do you like about Pro in the leadoff spot and kind of what he's been able to do?
I thought about it again because I do reflect on some of the answers I give you and some of the questions. And I thought, you know what, great question. And just in simple terms, when a guy's taking good at bats, regardless of where you put him, then you can put him in leadoff. But ultimately, a lineup's about a lineup full of guys taking good at bats. And so it shouldn't matter as much where they go. For example, yesterday, Bogey wasn't leading off, but led off 2 innings. There's your lineup. But I get the fact it turns over, so I'm not naive to that, clearly. But I like the fact that he's left it right-handed, taking good at bats regardless, working walks, getting big hits. But it's really just about guys taking good at bats.
That was Mike Schultz talking about the lineup. Here was Mike Schultz when he was asked if the series against the Phillies, Padres got swept by the Phils, if that series was more a reflection of how dominant the Phillies are right now, or more of a reflection of a Padres team sort of finding its way right now in the rotation and offensively.
I think it's a combination. I think thought about that as well. We're sharing minds together here about the reflection. They're a really good team, the Phillies. Clearly, they've been to a World Series and a game away from another one last year. And then they played, candidly, their best baseball. You think about all the components of what goes into a game, which I talk about pretty consistently here, and how you win games. And so you got great starting pitching with Nola, Suarez. Walker did his part yesterday. They played super clean defensively, with the exception of one ball in the 8th yesterday. We talk about lineups. Their whole lineup was taking good at bats, pretty much regardless of where it was. Schwarber contributed. They had, homers from about everywhere. Stott had 2. Baum was, just living right and, good player, just playing well. So you had a really good, talented team that did everything well from an execution standpoint. That's going to be a challenge to win. So we have to continue to match that. Now, saying that, we played really good teams and won multiple series against, on record and paper, really good teams. It's really just going to come down to our component is playing well irrespective of opponent and doing those things consistently. I alluded earlier to our defense. We basically put on a clinic this last series defensively and didn't win a game, and no one's going to say, hey, that's great, and it didn't allow you to contribute to it. All I can say is, from a pure, how are we playing standpoint, that's a huge win. Now let's figure out how to have a few more shutdown innings, a few more consistent at-bats and innings, but I look at our latest report, and we're a top 10 offensive team, taking good at-bats, doing a lot of good things. We just got to continue to put it together and be consistent. When you play good teams, that's what it comes down to, and that's what the playoffs are about, and we got to do that consistently so we can go be that playoff team we expect to be.
That was Padres manager Mike Schilt before today's game. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show coming up later on tonight. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 6:40 in this series opener between the Padres and the Cincinnati Reds. Now let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with the hot category, and a guy who is not in the lineup here today, but we could certainly see come off the bench at some point. That's Luis Campusano, now in his last 11 games, batting .333 with a home run, 4 doubles, 7 RBIs, a .912 OPS in his last 36 at-bats. In the not category, we take a look at a couple of Reds and one Padre. For the Reds, Jeimer Candelario, 0 for his last 19, 12 strikeouts in that span for Candelario. Ellie De La Cruz is 1 for 11 on the road trip so far for Cincinnati. Went 1 for 11 over the weekend against the Rangers. He's batting just .178 in 12 road games this season, but De La Cruz is batting .373 with 5 home runs at home in 51 at-bats, but had a very quiet series as far as the base hits against the Rangers over the weekend. And for the Padres in the not category, Fernando Tatis Jr. batting just .143 with a .229 on base percentage in his last 11 games. That's in a span of 42 at-bats. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for this series opener in downtown San Diego. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll hear from Jurickson Profar and Kyle Higashioka. Plus, we update you on the injuries entering today's game, full out-of-town scoreboard, and our keys to the game coming up as well. We'll be back after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as the Padres get ready to take on the Cincinnati Reds in Game 1 of this three-game series. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Coming up in this segment, we'll hear from Jurickson Profar. We'll also give you our keys to the game in just a little bit. If you have a key to the game, you can share that with me on Twitter or Instagram. You can message me on Instagram. You can tweet at me at SammyLev, SammyLev. Let me know what your key to the game is here tonight. May just read your tweet or your DM live here on the air. We also are video streaming for the first time this week, and you can share your key to the game with me on YouTube in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, comment your key to the game. I may just read your key coming up later in our pregame coverage. Again, we'll have the out-of-town scoreboard, keys to the game coming up in just a little bit. But first,
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
injury updates for you today. Again, for the Padres, what we're waiting on right now, and we should find out later on tonight, will Yu Darvish come off the IL tomorrow to make the start against the Reds? We'll see. Sounds like maybe a possibility through a bullpen over the weekend. All the things we heard to this point have been good, so we'll see with that. But again, Yu Darvish right now still on the IL with neck tightness. For the Reds, they're dealing with a couple of injuries right now. Christian Encarnacion Strand and Tyler Stevenson both right now are day-to-day after being hit by pitches over the weekend in Arlington. Neither played in Sunday's game, and neither are in the lineup here tonight. So that's what we're looking at with the Reds right now. Both Encarnacion Strand and Stevenson right now are not in the lineup today after getting hit by pitches over the weekend. Now let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We have a couple of finals already today. Orioles beat the Yankees 2-0 in Baltimore. Grayson Rodriguez, a big start in that game for the Orioles. Rodriguez went 5 2/3 scoreless innings, picked up the win. Big series there, a 4-game set between the Orioles and the Yankees. Orioles win the opener 2-0. Nationals beat the Marlins 7-2 in Miami earlier today already. We have one postponement, by the way. Cardinals and the Tigers were rained out in Detroit. They'll make that up tomorrow in Detroit. Games going on right now. Cubs ahead of the Mets 3-1 in New York in the 9th inning. Luis Severino actually had a no-hitter into the 8th inning for the Mets, but again, the Cubs are down 3-1, or I should say the Cubs are winning 3-1 in the 9th inning at Citi Field in New York. Blue Jays ahead of the Royals 5-4 in Toronto in the 6th inning. Twins and the White Sox tied at 2 in Chicago in the 6th inning. Rays ahead of the Brewers 1-0 in Milwaukee in the 7th inning. Games still to come a little bit later on today. Phillies and the Angels in Anaheim at 6:40. Braves and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 6:40. Pirates and the A's in Oakland, you guessed it, at 6:40. And that's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Monday in the major leagues. Jurickson Profar back in left field and leading off in tonight's game. Profar did a very good job yesterday, continues to swing the bat really, really well. I'll have more on Profar coming up in just a little bit, but here was Jurickson inside the Padres clubhouse earlier today when he was asked about his mindset at the plate this season.
Just try to do whatever the game asks me to. You know, just go up there and try to hit the ball hard somewhere.
Obviously, a tough series for the Padres against the Phillies. Here was Jurickson on how the team can rebound after that tough 3-game set.
Yes, I think, you know, we've been swinging the bat really, really good, you know, and, you know, we were just battling against, you know, good teams, and they put a lot of runs on the board, you know, but I think, you know, just I expect a good game tonight, you know, just offensively doing what we've been doing and pitching a little bit better.
Finally, Jerkson was asked about Ellie De La Cruz, one of the very, very exciting young players for the Reds.
We work out together this offseason. We both work out with Tatis' dad, in the mornings, and he's a special player.
Yeah, certainly has been very entertaining to watch, and hey, that's a cool workout with Profar, Tatis, and Ellie De La Cruz during the offseason. And hey, we get two of the most exciting players in baseball on the same field in this series with De La Cruz and, of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. Now let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Our keys to the game here for Game 1 of this three-game series between the Padres and the Reds. They're going to be pretty simple, but really important. Key number 1. Don't let the Reds rally. Reds have lost 3 of 4. They've scored just 12 runs in that span. Reds are also striking out a ton right now. They've struck out nearly 37% of their at-bats during the past 4 games. They strike out a lot in general. Reds have the 3rd highest strikeout rate in the major league so far this season. So this may be a good time to face the Reds offense. Try to keep this lineup quiet. That's key number 1. Key number 2, we just heard from Jerkson Profar, but key number 2, Profar in the leadoff spot. Back there today, had 2 hits and a walk yesterday out of that top spot in the lineup. Profar continues to be arguably this team's best hitter through the first month of the year. Consider this. Jerkson Profar leads the Padres in batting average at .303, on base percentage at .407, slugging percentage at .465. Getting Profar to keep doing what he's doing out of the leadoff spot, that's key number 2. Key number 3, the other guys, Manny, Xander, Fernando, they went just a combined 4 for 29 with 1 extra base hit, a double in that 3-game series against the Phillies. Bottom line is this, Padres need more from those 3, Machado, Bogarts, and Tatis. And key number 4, better starting pitching. Padres starting pitching allowed 18 earned runs in 15 innings during the 3-game series against Philadelphia. In fact, in the last 11 games, Padres are 3-8 in that span. Padres starters have nearly a 6 ERA, so they need a better performance from a starter in Matt Waldron here tonight. That's key number 4, and that's a look at our keys to the game. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll hear from tonight's catcher, Kyle Higashioka. Plus, I'll read some of your keys to the game. You can tweet them at me, Instagram DM me with them at SammyLev, SammyLev. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube right now, you can also comment with your key to the game. I'll read those when we come back. We'll also tell you what to watch for in today's game and dive into our pitching matchup between Matt Waldron and Nick Lodolo. First pitch coming up at 6:40 here at Petco Park. I'm Sam Levitt on the Padres Radio Network.
Stick around for much
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch. Coming up at 6:40 in the series opener as the Padres look to bounce back, trying to snap a 4-game skid. We'll hear from tonight's starting catcher, Kyle Higashioka, in just a moment. But first, let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? The Reds running game. The Reds lead the major leagues in stolen bases with 52 already this season. They also lead MLB in stolen base attempts. Now, Ellie De La Cruz is a big part of that. He has 18 stolen bases so far this year, but even if you took away his 18, the Reds still would rank third in stolen bases in the major leagues. Now, here's the interesting part tonight. The Padres have allowed just 15 stolen bases in 20 attempts against them this season. Only 4 teams have allowed fewer stolen bases across the majors than the Padres. And with Matt Waldron, opposing teams are 10 for 10 on stolen base attempts against them going back to when he made his major league debut last season. So the Reds are really good at swiping bases. Padres have been pretty good at holding runners on this year. Matt Waldron maybe has not been the best at that. How does that all shake out today? That's what to watch for in today's game. Speaking of Matt Waldron, Kyle Higashioka doing the catching for Waldron here tonight. Here was part of my conversation yesterday with Kyle about Matt Waldron.
Kyle, another guy you've had a chance to catch quite a bit. That's Matt Waldron, who had that really nice outing in Colorado earlier this week. What stood out to you about what he's done so far this year?
I think he's done a good job trusting his stuff, throwing strikes, getting ahead of guys, and I think that's the key. The knuckleball is obviously a pitch it's so hard to catch. I can't, you have to think that it's equally as hard to hit. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just trying to tackle it.
Do you feel like you're getting more comfortable with it as time goes on, as you see it more?
I'm not sure. It's always a struggle.
As far as Matt's repertoire as a whole, obviously he's a little bit of a different pitcher with the knuckleball because he's not a quote-unquote traditional knuckleballer where it's what he primarily throws. How do you feel like he continues to work on that wider pitch mix?
I think it's important for him to throw everything because you can get guys slowed down, and he's got the fastball and he's got the command to be effective with it. And then, if guys are looking for the fastball, he obviously has the knuckleball and also the sweeper. It's been good.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
On the mound for the Padres today, right-hander Matt Waldron. So far this season, 1-2, a 3.96 ERA in 5 starts, 25 innings, 23 strikeouts, and he's walked 10. Last start in Colorado, a good one. 6 innings, 1 earned run given up. It's been up and down for Waldron. 3 out of his 5 starts have been solid, at least 5 innings with 1 run allowed or less. The other 2 starts, he gave up 4 runs and 5 runs in less than 5 complete innings. This will be his first career start against the Reds. Only guy in the Reds lineup who's seen him is Jeimer Candelario. He has a home run against him in 2 at-bats. The arsenal for Waldron, as we know, he throws that knuckleball 35% of the time, also mixes in the four-seamer, sweeper, sinker, and a cutter. On the mound for the Reds, left-hander Nick Lodolo, 26 years old, 7th overall pick in the 2019 draft out of TCU. 2024 so far, 3 starts, a 2.12 ERA in 17 innings. Missed a couple of weeks at the start of the season. He hadn't pitched since last May because of a left tibia injury, then also had a calf issue during spring training. Last start Wednesday against the Phillies, 5 innings, 3 earned runs given up on 6 hits. He faced the Padres during his rookie season in 2022 in what was just his second major league start when 5 innings, 3 earned runs given up at that game here at Petco Park. Manny Machado hit a home run against him in that game. Arsenal for Lodolo, 4-seam fastball, curveball, changeup, and a sinker. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Bob Scanlon have the starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.